Another week in the NFL continues to surprise us with its list of early season successes. Teams like the Chiefs and Bills at 3-0 might not be surprising, but to see the Vikings, Seahawks, and Steelers is. In Kansas City, it looks like there is more talent on offense this year, but it doesn't feel like they have fully used that talent. And that may be the scary thing for the rest of the league, because this team is still 3-0. Travis Kelce might not be having the games he wants to now, but he will by the end of the year. Mahomes is not playing his best, but is still second in MVP odds. And guys like Isaiah Pacheco and Hollywood Brown will be back later in the season. So my question is, who's going to be the Chiefs? Mike Tomlin might not ever have a losing season, and I don't know how he does it, but with a 3-0 start in first place in a very difficult AFC North, it looks like he's going to do it again. It's easier when teams I talk about later, like the Bengals surprisingly start 0-3, but Pittsburgh has also made it easier for themselves. With Justin Fields the quarterback, they haven't asked him to do much, and that is fine. Fields has had a great start of the year with a 73% completion percentage. Fields is also throwing the ball in the middle of the field more, something he didn't do as much of in Chicago, and the results have been very positive. The defense continues to play great, led by TJ Watt. The Steelers look like they'll be a playoff team this year. The Bills, while not necessarily surprising people at 3-0, have done a good job of answering some important questions. People, including myself, wondered if Buffalo made a mistake by trading Stephon Diggs, and if that Bills defense was still as good as it has been in the past. Josh Allen's answer has been a 75% completion percentage and 7 touchdowns paired 0 interceptions to start the year, and is number 1 in the MVP odds. In Minnesota and Seattle, Sam Darnold and Geno Smith continue to prove they are not only NFL starting quarterbacks, but they are good ones too. The Vikings and Seahawks look like dangerous teams this year. And where there are pleasant surprises, there are also unpleasant surprises. There's 3 winless teams in the NFL currently, the Bengals, Jaguars, and Titans. For Cincinnati, this is very alarming because not only are their expectations playoffs, they are the Super Bowl. They expect to be competing in January. Clearly, they have to figure some things out first. What may be most concerning is who they lost to. They lost to the Chiefs, which is understandable, but the losses to the Patriots and Commanders are more confusing. New England and Washington not only won, but won in Cincinnati. Yes, I understand that the Bengals might have just played bad against the Patriots, and Gene Daniels simply played better on Monday night, which we'll talk about later. I expect that Burrow and the Bengals figure it out, but history tells us it is very hard and unlikely to make the playoffs after a 3-0 start. Another first-round pick, Trevor Lawrence, is also struggling. Unlike Buffalo, who seems to be fine without an elite wide receiver, the Jaguars look like they're struggling without Calvin Ridley, or just an elite wide receiver in general. The Jaguars have scored 17, 13, and 10 points to start the year. That's 40 points in 3 games, which isn't enough in the modern NFL. It won't get any easier when they face the Texans next week in Houston. It might be a long season in Tennessee without Derrick Henry. Will Levis hasn't seemed to improve from last season, and Malik Willis, the guy Levis replaced, is now thriving with the Packers, including a win against his former team last week in convincing fashion. The Titans and new coach Brian Callahan need to figure things out fast. Week 3 was also a tale of 2 quarterbacks. One is 36 years old and expected to be a backup for the season. Another was just 23 years old, the second overall pick, and the franchise depending on him even though he's just a rookie. The first guy is Andy Dalton. He had a good career in Cincinnati, but he expected to be Bryce Young's backup as the young quarterback continued to learn in his second season. Dalton became the starter in Carolina when Bryce Young was benched, and he responded by throwing 3 touchdowns, the first quarterback to do so this season, 0 interceptions and 319 yards against the Raiders in Las Vegas. The other quarterback, Gene Daniels, also had 3 touchdowns, 2 passing and 1 rushing in an upset win over Cincinnati. I'm sure Daniels was happy to be part of the first game since 1940 with no punts or turnovers. A quarterback's dream, especially if you get the win like he did 38-33. It looks like to me both teams have found their quarterbacks, at least for this season. Shout out to Sam Darnold as well, who threw 4 touchdowns in a win over Houston. In the college game, the majority of big programs won the games they're supposed to. Boring, but it should set up some legendary matchups later in the year. All the heavy favorites won. Texas, Georgia, Ohio State, for example. If there was one team who looked to be in trouble, Missouri played dangerously close with Vanderbilt at home, and it took overtime to beat them. Although the Tigers got the win, There will certainly be questions now surrounding this team and how far they can go, especially after a close game against Boston College last week. Nebraska is a big program and lost to Illinois. Ranked in the top 25 and at home, this seemed to be a game Nebraska should win. However, Illinois, another top 25 team, had other ideas in what was a great game. USC and Michigan met in a rare regular season game, and the Trojans left Michigan with a close loss to the defending champions. Is USC's playoff chances over? No. But after this one, they have to be just about perfect, especially because they're going to be competing for a playoff spot against Michigan, who's certainly in playoff consideration. The Big 12 title race got a little bit more clearer, with a convincing win for BYU and a close win for Utah against another Big 12 title favorite, Oklahoma State. Could we see the holy war for the Big 12 championship game? It's very possible. Then Oklahoma got welcomed to the SEC by Tennessee, who lost to the Volunteers 25-15. The Sooner schedule doesn't get any easier from here. And a developing story, the Pac-12 is alive. Almost. The conference still needs 8 teams by next year to officially be a conference. They currently have 7 now with the addition of Utah State. Originally, it looked like schools such as Memphis and Tulane would be moving west, but they decided to stay in the AAC. The state of the Mountain West can be more confusing at the moment. There are rumors that the AAC wants to add Air Force to join Army and Navy in the conference. As of right now, it seems like Air Force wants to stay in the Mountain West, but that could very easily change. The Falcons also seem to have interest from the Pac-12, and so does UNLV. The Rebels are one of the best non-Power 5 teams at the moment, and look like a top priority for the rebuilding Pac-12. UNLV plans to look over its options after previously committing to the Mountain West, but that was before Utah State. There are also reports that Gonzaga is in negotiations to join the Pac-12, just for basketball though. They'd still be making just as much as the football schools though. And to the rest of the Mountain West Conference, I wish you the best of luck. And hopefully the conference finds some way to survive. The Bulldogs and Crimson Tide have one of the best rivalries in all of college football, but what makes it better is that last year these two met for the SEC championship, and unofficially a playoff spot too. Alabama pulled off the upset, completing a turnaround of a rough start to the year. Georgia showed Florida State why they thought the loss shouldn't have kept the back-to-back champions out, while Alabama, who very controversially got in over undefeated Florida State, nearly upset Michigan in the Rose Bowl, and Nick Saban's last game with the Alabama Crimson Tide. Now these two programs, who seemingly find winning easy, meet in Tuscaloosa on what should be a game to remember, a playoff game in September, a SEC championship at the start of fall. Whatever you want to call it, this game is going to be good. Kalen DeBoer wants to prove that even though he's not Nick Saban, he's still going to beat Georgia. Kirby Smart and the Bulldogs want revenge after last year. This game may very well come down to the quarterbacks, the two Heisman Trophy favorites, Jalen Milroe for Alabama and Carson Beck for Georgia. What's my prediction?
Wow. Give me Alabama to break.
Another week of football has passed. Make sure to let me know your ideas and opinions about the action around the world of football. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.